flying out. Get off me. No, no. Okay, so this is my regular setup. You may have seen it before, but it doesn't really compare to this. Holy moly, that's insane. I've got three 48-inch monitors side by side. These are the Asus ROG PG48UQs. 138 Hz overclock, up to 900 nits, 4K obviously, and 48 inches. Look at that! I've barely got room in my studio for this. And as soon as you sit in the hot seat, you just are fully immersed. We're looking at a 1152 by 2160 resolution. That is a 48 by 9 aspect ratio. Now, what I love about this is that the bezels are actually really thin, which means you can put them side by side and there really isn't that much of a gap. Now, behind the scenes, literally, if I can scramble over without knocking my speakers over, that was dangerous. And actually, I've just stuck them on some stands. I bought these on Amazon for about £60. Then we have this screw thread there, so you can mount cameras or lights. And with this setup, I've got two of the displays hooked up to the PC via HDMI ports and one via DisplayPort. And just a quick thank you to Asus ROG for sponsoring this video and for sending over these awesome peripherals, including the ROG Chakram X gaming mouse, we've got the ROG Strix Scope NX Wireless Deluxe keyboard, bit of a mouthful, and the ROG Delta S wireless headset, which all together help make this one incredible setup. Okay, let's talk about this rig. And at the center of it, we have the ROG Strix Gaming 4090 OC. This is a bit of a beast of a card, not the regular Strix 4090, the OC. And this is it. 3.5 slot, big fan array, this huge fan array at one side. We've got 3 axial fans underneath, some Aura Sync here for your go faster lighting. It's an incredible card and actually open to a bit more overclocking because there is more power and thermal headroom here as well. But importantly, so you're not bottlenecking your card, make sure you've got a pretty beefy CPU as well. I've got the 7950X, 16 cores, goes up to 5.7 gigahertz before overclocking. And even with this, I found I was CPU limited in some games. So if you are going to get a setup with a card like this, make sure you've got a CPU to go with it. Then we've got these two sticks of 6200 megahertz DDR5 RAM from Corsair, which is pretty much, I think, the fastest RAM you can get at the moment. 1000 watts PSU, all inside this fractal torrent case. It's a nice setup. And actually, I've got all this lighting set up with the IQ software for Corsair, except of course, the Aura Sync with the ROG card. It's certainly not cheap, but if you do fancy checking out a system like this, I'll leave links in the description below. A pretty powerful rig. And it has to be if you're gonna power 3 4K displays like this. And then the first thing to do is jump into the NVIDIA control panel, go to multiple displays and turn on NVIDIA Surround. What you might be able to notice is there's actually not that many reflections. I've got all my windows open behind here, including a light and Pete, who's actually flying flight sim right now, because I can't do that while I'm filming this. And we've got this anti-reflective coating, which does a really good job as well. So if you are going to use these displays in a multi-monitor setup, that is a big help if you've got any windows or lights. But enough waffling, I think it's time I sit in the hot seat and play some games on this. First question. Can it run Crysis? Yes, I've got Crysis Remastered running here with all the settings set to can it run Crysis. What's the resolution? Yep, 11520 by 2160. I mean, for me, I think there's 3 types of games that you want to play on a setup like this. FPS shooters, where you've got that sort of peripheral vision showing you where the bad guys are, particularly like in Warzone. Fortnite looks great on this as well. And then you've got sort of RPGs, just for that immersive factor. And then Sims. This is an ideal simulator rig for F122, for Flight Sim. Now, I'm not going to say we haven't had any issues with this setup. There's been a couple of teething problems, but then again, we are still running on pre-release drivers for the card, the 4090. It's a brand new card, brand new build as well, so we're sort of figuring this out as we go. So yes, it can play Crysis, but now let's switch over to something that I actually want to play. Oh! No, this is so unrealistic. Now, the eagle-eyed among you may realize that I've actually swapped my desk out. Oh no, that's a terrible start. That's a terrible start. This is just like the Japanese Grand Prix. Because I wanted to fit this racing wheel. This is the Logitech G923 because we're playing a bit of F122 now. And so far, I've got to say, I think this has been the best experience. Now, if you are a regular on the channel, you know that I've tried all sorts of setups, ultra-wide monitors, super ultra-wides. I've used TVs quite a few times for both work and gaming. The problem with using TVs, I've used the LG C1 and the C2, is that they're not really meant for PC gaming. And one of the big issues actually is dimming. They haven't got the heat sinks like these monitors do. The high refresh as well, not just 120 Hertz, we've got 138 with an overclock. Just lots of gaming-specific features makes this a much better option than using, say, a TV or multiple TVs. And of course, being OLED means we have those ridiculous contrast ratios, also really good viewing angles. That's a big deal as well, because obviously I've got these two, I was going to say TVs there, monitors in my periphery, and you want each display to have the best viewing angles possible. So OLED is a big help with that. Actually, I'll tell you what, this wheel is making a huge difference as well to the experience. They already look great on the screens, and it plays incredibly smoothly. What are we getting? 105 frames per second, maxed out 4K F122. But having this controller, same if you're gonna play flight sim, definitely get yourself some flight controls. It really does add to the experience. Now, the best sort of alternative to this setup would be probably a VR headset, whether your Index or your Vives. That will give you a more wraparound experience, I suppose, but you're not going to get anything like the visual quality, the frame rate, and the sharpness of these displays in this setup. Alternatively, you could do a super ultra wide. We have 49-inch super ultra wide curved displays. They're very nice, and the benefit there is, well, it's cheaper than this setup, and also you don't have any bezels, which is nice and a lot easier to set up. But again, those resolutions are nowhere near 11520 by 2160. So in terms of PPI, the sharpness and the detail of this is unmatched. It really is. This is as close to the real thing as I'm ever gonna get. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm stuck on his wheel. Just get off me. 100% realism right there. I just want to show you this quickly. This is Art of Rally, and I realize that my steering wheel doesn't actually work, but the joystick on my mouse does. Have a look at that. This is the ROG Chakram X mouse. It's got a 4-way directional joystick on it, which I've not seen before. Can I have a lick it? Oh. I don't know why. Now, being a monitor, unlike a TV, we also have the OSD, the on-screen display. There's a little joystick underneath here. We've got this ROG logo, which you can turn off if you want. And in here, you can turn on the overclocking, adaptive sync with G-Sync compatibility, change the brightness, contrast. And then in input select, we've got the DisplayPort, which I'm using right now, as well as the 4 HDMIs. Because these are OLED displays, of course, you are worried about burn-in, but we have a screensaver on by default. We have pixel cleaning. We also have screen move, which just shifts the pixels a little bit every now and then. And also it can adjust logo brightness. So if you've got static logos or taskbars like this, it'll adjust the brightness. So hopefully, and I'm pretty confident, you're not gonna have any burn-in issues with this. All right, look at this. Night City, triple 4K. Holy moly, that looks good. Obviously, you've got quite a stretched view on the side monitors. This is all about field of view, and that's something you might actually want to change in some games. Field of view can make the periphery look quite stretched. Some games, it sort of just works perfectly. Others, it looks a bit weird if you look right off to the edge. Inventory at the bottom left. I've got my objectives on the far right, so you're definitely gonna have to twist your head to get all the information you want. And obviously we're running all this on a single GPU, just the one 4090. Now maxed out with the resolution we're at, we're not obviously hitting that 138 Hertz refresh rate, so you could drop some settings, I guess. First of all, not every game supports multi-monitor setups, and those that do, you kind of have to tweak sometimes. I've had to do lots of updates. There's been a few issues, I have to say, but I think it's all teething problems because this is all relatively new hardware. But certainly don't go into this kind of setup expecting it to be completely smooth sailing. You could just sit closer to your main screen if you just had the one 48-inch screen, which is already crazy for most of us. You can sit closer, that fills up more of your vision, and then you're not, powering 3 4K displays. What is kind of helpful though is, oh god, look how stretched that is. Oh no, that's not good. So I suppose in some games it does help with this sort of situational awareness. There's just more on screen, more information. Whether it's too much, whether it's information overload, that may be the case as well. Here we go, on a bike. You've got to admit, as ludicrous as this setup is, that does look good. In fact, what game would you play on this if you had it in front of you. What's the first game you play? Let me know in the comments below. I'll tell you what I do want to play. Rogue Squadron. Oh, this does look good on OLED. Look at that. Tell you what, Andor has made me want to play more Star Wars games again. And also, with the extra screens, I can see my sidey bits on my X-Wing, whatever you call them. I'm old enough to remember playing X-Wing on floppy disks on my PC about 1,000,000 years ago. And in my mind, it looked as good as this. If I knew old Tom would be playing this. Oh, I don't think I believe it. Also, pretty good built-in speakers. I've got to say, I think I'd still recommend if you're going to spend this kind of money on a setup, getting a good external speaker, but the built-in speakers in these monitors are actually pretty damn good. Okay, bit of a ludicrous setup, but let me know what you make of this in the comments below. Also, don't forget, while we've just been talking about games, this kind of setup with this much desktop real estate is pretty great for multitasking. You could have an F-off Premiere Pro timeline going on as well, and also these displays have pretty high color accuracy. They're DCI P3 optimized, so I might try some video editing on it as well, but certainly not as fun as gaming. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Channel.